Hello, poodling around us. Today we're going to be talking about the sport of fell running, for which you need fells. And Grasmere in the Lake District is graced with not just fells, but some exceptional ones, on which the sport of fell running has been practised for centuries. The very earliest fell race that we know about took place in 1064, but in Grasmere the sport first made an appearance at Grasmere Sports in the 1850s. This fell race was for the seniors and was known as a guides race, as the experienced shepherds and the locals would guide Victorian tourists around the fells, and these individuals were often the only competitors in the races, so it literally was a race for the guides. Wordsworth talks of watching fell racing in his Guide to the Lakes, and Dickens is also known to have attended. 1868 was the year of the first guides race, which went up Silver How. The current course is 1.5 metres long and is over a Butter Crags course, which encompasses a 295 metre ascent. The record of 12 minutes 21.6 seconds is held by Fred Reeves and was set in 1978. It has been won by all of fell running's greats, which includes Tommy Sedgwick, who we're privileged enough to talk to today. Hello, Tommy. Thanks for talking to us today. First of all, could you tell us a little bit about how you got into the sport of fell running?
Yeah, I used to run for a boys' secondary school cross-country team, and my granny used to live at Sedbergh in the Yorkshire Dales.
Yes.
And they brought the Sedbergh Gala back in 1964, and she lived right on the side of where the fell race course went. And yes, I get bothered with nerves. I did all the time I raced, and at the first I said I was going to run to my parents or to my father, who was very keen. And then the night before the race, I said no, I wasn't going to go. And father went to work on the Saturday. And I used to work on a farm, as a lot of country boys do, sort of help out with just basic, light work on a farm. And the old farmer that I used to work for said I had to get myself there and it would go all right, it would be fine. So my mum took me to Sedbergh Gala, to the fell race. And I found the ascent very hard. I turned at the top of the fell sixth. But I was lucky enough to have a good descent, and I actually won it. I caught the young lad who had more experience on fells than me. Within the last 20-30 yards before the tape, and I was lucky enough to win it.
And how old were you at that point, Tommy?
14.
14, wow. So that must have been there must have been something very appealing about the sport. Although I suppose the proximity to the course helped, didn't it? In that
it's
sense,
what set me off. Yes, and I found there was another boy running the race. It went to the same school as I did, Longlands Boys School at Kendal, and he'd had quite a bit of experience, and he could climb. Well, slightly better than me, but not much different, but didn't descend at all. And I found that, yes, I was lucky enough to be able to descend. And once I got halfway through the race, descending was usually come very easy. It wasn't, it just happened, if you will. We didn't have another fell race. The following, Peter Bland tried to get me to go to Dent Sports, which is another Yorkshire Dales village, the following week. But we were actually going away on holiday with my parents. And that was something that was quite a rarity. It was just as it was in those times. And but we decided to enter for Ambleside Sports, was my next race. And we went up on Saturday before the race being on the Thursday. basically to find out where it was at, because we didn't have that much knowledge of the Lake District at that point. And we met Peter Bland on the Sunday. He was also training, and Peter took me under his wing and guided me and told me where races were. And I got a third at the Ambleside, which was my second fell race in the under-17s, that was. And I got a third at Keswick that year. And then I had quite a nasty fall coming off Grasmere. I was just passing the second and third person coming down Grasmere Fell. And I pulled out to pass the pair at once to move into second place. And I fell into a well.
Oh dear.
And burst a vein in my leg. I did finish. I finished fifth. But and since that at Grasmere, it's always been fenced off as this. It's sort of a spring away up the first field. As you come down the first field, there's a big hole.
Ah, right.
But, that finished that fell race season. But Pete Bland, as I say, did a lot of good with youngsters, me included. And the following year, I was more prepared. I was training more, and things was going on a more sensible regime, if you will. I was training harder to improve my climbing, and yes, I was lucky enough always to be able to descend to fairly good pace.
And so just, listeners probably don't understand what's involved here. So could you give them an idea of the sort of ascent that you have to go up at Grasmere in the senior guides race, and the gradients and the distance?
It was a specialist races was what we were running at that time, very short. I know a lot of the amateur runners who were doing the longer distance ones, but most of our fell races were the seniors are in a 15 to 20 minutes zone. They were all based, or most of them were based around Lake District shores or specialist sports, some over the border in Scotland. So the terrain was quite different. Some was what you would nearly call a cross-country race, and some was very steep, hard ascents, and obviously descents. And they varied a bit. We had a very small band of runners, which in my era we all got on very well. There were some characters, but they were genuine sportsmen, all of them. Some had good flat track speed, if you will, and myself, I was better once I got onto the steep climbs, and the steep descents was my strength. Most of the fell races were in view from the sports field, so a lot of the locals who used to go to the various sports got to know the individual runners, and myself or Fred and myself. It balanced very well if you were watching the race, because Fred usually got away going up, and I tried to make it up, and sometimes got by on the descent, which when the locals knew who we were, it created that interest, and I think it created quite a good spectacle in that time.
Yes, because you're referring here, aren't you, to sort of about 11 years in which you and Fred Reeves were dominating the senior guides race at Grasmere. And
Yes,
I think
we did.
between 1969 and 1979, in those 11 races, I think you won 3 of them, didn't you? And came second to Fred in 8 of them. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that must have been a massive rivalry.
Yes, and he was a true sportsman, was Fred. He was a true sportsman. There was never excuses or. Yes, he knew he had to be away, and I knew I had to hang on to have a chance to race him coming back down. And we were very, very competitive on the start line and on. But once it finished, I would like to think we're the best of mates. He's now in America. He comes over for holidays, and he's stayed with us over here. And I'm sure if we raced today, it would just be the same,
Yes. Yeah.
I think I had massive respect for him. He was a good miler and 2 miler. He ran the professional 1 mile championships and 2 miles before he turned to the fells. And his training regime often, well, for Grasmere, he often used to jog to the top and try and come down as quickly as he could. Whereas my training regime, I was often doing 400s and 800s and repetition hill climbs, but to try and build the speed up so I could hang on to be near enough for the top.
Yeah. Because you've sort of intimated at this, haven't you, that he was fantastic going up the fell, but you were virtually unbeatable coming down it because you were a bit of a demon, I believe, coming down the fell.
Yeah, I was once referred to as brainless and brakeless.
But
yeah,
it came at some cost, didn't it? Because you had quite a few injuries as a result of that.
I did, but yeah. Thankfully, nothing too. A few bust ankles and leg muscles, but no, you didn't give it any thought at all. I found you'd often less problems if you could relax and let yourself go, and you would often have an easier descent unless you misjudged something and had a mishap. A lot of the runners used to put a lot of brake and strain on the leg muscles, trying to sort of slow themselves down, and it often made your legs a lot stiffer. Whereas if you could relax more and descend, it normally went well. But yes, every now and again you had that mishap that.
But I guess the sort of the highlight of these years when you were racing, Fred, was really 1976 to 78, wasn't it? Because you broke the Grasmere record in 76, and I think you shaved quite a bit off the previous record then. But then 2 years later, Fred ran even faster. Had you thought that could possibly happen, given what you'd already done to the record?
Yes, I knew there was that little over that sort of course. It suited, as I say, it suited a great entertainment value because I could descend quickly and Fred could climb. And yes, it was always we always felt you had a chance to win for Grasmere. There was such as Ambleside, I could never give him a proper race. There wasn't enough steep descent and I couldn't hang on close enough for the top. But at Grasmere I could. And similar, the one at Alva in Stirling in Scotland is unbelievably steep, both up and down, not a lot of bottom. Fred ran it 3 or 4 times, but it suited me, did that course. But Grasmere could have gone either way. I honestly think for 10 or 11 years. There wasn't a lot in it. In my year my sister was born, 1970 was a wet day, and I caught him coming down the last field and passed him. Got to the road first, but then he got by again to the tape. And yes, there were some good races that spectators, I think, will get a lot of pleasure out of watching.
So, Tommy, how much time were you spending training at this time?
The early stages, I was working for my father, which was agricultural work. We'd heard that Fred was training 3 times a day. I was training from January to March. I ran once a day. From March to May, I ran twice a day for the first 4 days of the week. The first training session was usually a 3-mile warm-up in the morning, and then adjusted it accordingly, a mixture of fell races and track repetition training, trying to build my speed up. And then from May to August, because our main races were in August, the morning run was increased from a 3-mile warm-up to a 5. Now Fred was, as I say, was running of a lunchtime. He was a draftsman at Coniston Quarry, And I tried it for 3 days, trying 3 times a day. But I was actually doing manual work on a fell side, knocking posts in, putting fence up. And after 3 days, I was that tired, I could hardly swing the hammer. And it just, yeah, we had to revert back to twice a day.
Yeah.
But,
And did you have a pre-race diet? Because I think Fred was known for honey and cheese sandwiches. Did you have anything like
no.
that? No.
No, we ran the Three Peaks as non-competitors when, I don't know whether you know the history, you probably do, the history of the sports. At one time, you ran till you were 16, you could run both the professional circuits, as in the Lake District sports, and then you either stayed on classed as a professional or you joined the amateurs. And it was quite amicable. I used to train with a lot of the amateurs, and I ran the Three Peaks. And the first time I ran that, when I ran my conventional fell races, I had very little in my stomach at all. And it was a big learning curve. I got the shakes halfway up the third peak, and I was had to give him some glucose and a coffee, and had to walk. But I got round. But the races we had very little. You were only running for 15 minutes, so diet wasn't a big factor, or for me it wasn't. If you were doing the longer distances, which I have great admiration for the lads that's running today, they are doing sort of everything from a 15-minute run to the Three Peaks, which is 3 hours sort of mark. You've got to be very aware of diet and how it affects you, and to take on board the relevant food. But in our race, as long as you didn't have a lot in the system, yeah, I never had any problems. It wasn't something I ever thought or did a lot about. I did used to have raw eggs and milk at one time when I first started. But as I say, you used to find that folk give you advice, especially as a youngster, when you used to you had to filter the advice, both training wise and otherwise. What suited you didn't always suit somebody else. And we used to read quite a lot of different training regimes. But over the years, you adjusted it to suit what you responded best to. And what suited me was, yes, my weakness was my overall speed. So I did repetition 400s and 800s. From sort of May to August, because August was when I wanted to be at my peak. Didn't get the same pleasure out of running those or training those as what you did going and running around the fell races. But it was what suited, what you found you performed the best of.
Yeah. And you've sort of mentioned, your success in Scotland. But at Alva, I think you won, was it 11 or 12 times? I think you won that race.
I ran it 12 times and I won it 12 times.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. I must admit, the last time I ran it and won it, the age was coming into play in the business. We had a milk round, self-employed. My wife and myself had a milk round, and yes, we used to get up at 4:20 in the morning and deliver milk, and then you're heading up Scotland. I was a bit sad. We never got to Braemar, but it was just too far north. I couldn't get there at that time, and as I say, it was our own business. So it was, and I felt after I'd run it 12 times, in all fairness, the writing was on the wall, and I didn't mind getting beat anywhere else. And I openly admit that I thought there's plenty of races I would still go and run at, but I thought 12 years was a decent period to run, and from then on I watched. There wasn't 12 in a row. I ran 11 times, and then the 12th year since I won the first one, I was actually not fully well, and I said, my wife, we were geared up to go, for the weekend, if you will. I know we had the milk round, but we didn't deliver on a Sunday, so it could set off on a Saturday morning and go up. And I said, no, I'm not going to race when I'm not right. And I went back the following year and won and ran the 12th time, and I won it the 12th time. But,
and which made you happiest, winning at Grasmere or winning at Alva?
Not a lot of difference. In the early stages, Grasmere had all the prestige, and for us, it was people, and when I was a child, said it's our Olympics, and it was. But I'd got the connection with Alva over the years. I won it when I was 18, which was the first year I could win it. So obviously, it meant an awful lot to me to keep that record as such intact, if you will. But Grasmere, I won Grasmere again in '82, and I won the Vets in 1990. I think I was the first person to win the under-17s and the seniors. It's been done since, and then I won the Vets in the 1990s. So I sort of won there's more categories now. I think they've over 40s and 50s now, but they've a lot bigger fields. And yes, it carried a lot of prestige. The Grasmere for us, it was what we wanted to win. Yeah.
And you have another role at Grasmere Sports now, don't you?
Yes, I'm bellman. I ran it when I was 60, the actual senior race, and I had a daughter running at the time, and we had quite a battle. I caught her down the last field, but when I got into the bottom, I'd run out of legs, and then I fell running back across to the tape, and
oh dear.
And the family told me it was time I was giving up. And I had a very close friend who used to run Grasmere with me, was suffering with a brain tumour, and I was approached to see if I would be bellman. And I discussed it with this lad that was having problems, and I said, I was so honoured to be asked, but I said, I don't think it's me. I'm a country lad, if you will. I'm out of my comfort zone in such things. And he said to me, just be thyself. And I said, right, I will. I'll say I'll do it, but you have to be there. But sadly, we lost him before Grasmere came round.
Oh dear.
But yes, I'm really honoured to be asked, and I get great pleasure out of watching the youngsters and been involved and been there to a point.
So people know, I mean, you actually officially open the show, don't you? You ring
yes,
that bell,
and
everybody pays attention, and the show is open when you perform.
When I ring my bell.
Yeah. So you really are centre stage. Yeah.
I help with some of the track events. The committee are very good. They'll let me get the bell sort of through the. It isn't run on the same degree as sports, but they have some 400 metres and some children races, and I think there's some half miles, but there's quite a few laps, if you will, and I usually like to help, and I'm often ring the bell for the last lap, if you will.
Yeah.
But, yes, I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I do. I'm very nervous, but yeah, a little out of my comfort zone. But the directors and them that I'm connected with, yes, I'm very honoured to be asked. We're connected with it.
And I think it always makes a big impact. And it's a nice moment, isn't it? Because the national anthem then strikes up, and it really sort of, I think it's part of the tradition, isn't it? And that's what's so important about it, and the whole role.
Tradition, I'm very much, yes, I couldn't agree more. Yes, I like these old traditional Lake District sports and such, and the fell races. I often feel a little, not sad, and sometimes circumstances change. They have to alter the fell race courses, but for the fell race course over the same ground that 50 years ago they ran the same, I think it's great. You compare and compete over what generations of athletes have run, which I think is good.
And will this record ever be broken, do you think?
Yes, I'm sure it will. Yeah, time will come. we used to, I in particular, used to make sure it was wide enough on the descent. It was the sort of thing that was done prior to myself racing. Was some of the older athletes used to cut the guides race course out, and yeah, its time will come. You get bits of various times being over the fell ground. You sometimes get water courses and such can make a bit of difference on the terrain where you come through. But no, I think in time, the right generation, the right youngster that has that, can descend. We used to specialise very much for Grasmere, did Fred and myself, and yeah, somebody will decide one day that, yeah, I'm going to have that, and it'll happen.
And I think that's it, isn't it? I think somebody perhaps has to have that determination to specifically win Grasmere, because they run so many other races that I think you have to put your focus on it and just think, I'm going to do everything to sort of tackle this course and get this time. And I think that's probably what perhaps hasn't happened since your day, and maybe the rivalry actually helped make that happen in your day.
Absolutely certain the rivalry did, yeah, because when Fred first started winning, yes, he got under old Bill's record, and we kept shaving a little off it, and we knew if you wanted to win, I had to be nearer to him at the top, so I trained harder to climb, and Fred knew that I was getting nearer. He used to try and improve his descent, and yeah, it'll happen again when somebody. They will have to, I believe, they will have to focus on it. But there's some youngsters that's running now are very, very good. And yes, as they get into the seniors, they can sometimes they try to do a cross section of races, 15-minute races through to 2 hours plus. And some of them's, more gifted for doing the longer ones. And I think you will have to focus on that race. I don't think it'll come that easy, but there's some good youngsters running at the moment.
Yeah.
I still go and watch some of the other sports. I go to Alva usually every year and Ambleside, and yes, it's nice to see some of the old ones that's doing the same, having a look and watching. And some of the young ones you don't know by name, but you know enough about the courses and the times that's been run to see that some of these youngsters have a phenomenal potential. If they can keep it going, and if they're focused enough to keep it going.
Yeah.
It's always been a case as when youngsters got to 17 or 18, sometimes they go slightly sideways for a while.
And I think you broke the record in a heat wave, didn't you? When you
I did. It suited me. Yeah, it's the only time I was first onto the skyline at Grasmere was 76. Usually I was behind Fred. You come into sight from the field in between the two flags we go around. And in 76, I was actually first into sight. And I'd obviously had the best climb up, and I had a marvellous descend. It was nice and firm underfoot. It was dry. It would be the fastest descent I ever had, I think, at Grasmere, because I would probably be that much fitter, not as tired at the top. And yeah, the terrain underneath your feet was dry, it wasn't slippery, so that just give you them extra few seconds. We used to run with what we called all fell spikes. They were like a track spike with 2 and 3 spikes in the heel to give you that braking, that grip for descending. And yeah, that's something that the modern runners aren't doing now. The shoes they are running in are excellent, don't get me wrong, but ours were specialist shoes for that 15 minutes bell race course, and the grip we got from those spikes was tremendous. I'd run in what we classed as PBs, the fancy, the grip rubber gripped shoes, but the spikes certainly give you a better grip on the descent.
So I believe that you can't resist walking the course even now.
No, I do. I haven't walked it this year, but it's been going through my head quite a bit, and it might happen. Yes.
And what sort of memories come back when you do that?
Oh, yeah. Where you used to look up and see where Fred was or how near you were, and where you look back at certain points to see if you've got away from the rest of the pack. When you climb up to the first flag, there's certain specific rocks that it's a little scramble for the last 10 yards, and you know exactly where you used to put your hands and your feet to be able to get the grip to get up, and same coming down on the descents. There's certain stones you come diagonally down Grasmere, and there's one or two places where you knew you could break on that point, if you will, because there was times where you had to get a little bit of control in the descent, and you knew exactly where you placed your feet into. The head works all the time.
And the well, do you ever think about the well?
Well, I see it every year. It's fenced off now. It has some little wooden partition around it, and it was the same year. Although I didn't see it, they rushed me off to hospital. The St John's ambulance sort of tidied me up when I was taken down to Kendal to have it checked. But they said later in the day the leading hound fell in there. So ever since, I don't know whether it was for me or the hound that it's been fenced off.
And finally, what advice would you give to any fell runner with Fred's record in their mind, and they've got that as their target? What would you tell them to do?
Just enjoy it. Run it, enjoy it, and if they were lucky, it's gained an awful lot as the modern fell races. The numbers in the field is tremendous, brilliant. But we had a very small nuclear of characters, but genuine straight runners. And I feel, yes, it's gained a lot, but it's lost a little. But if they can get the same enjoyment out of the racing week in, week out that we got, it would take a lot of beating.
Yeah.
And somebody, we used to, when we were training and such, we were always given advice from all fell runners and folk in other sports trying to guide you, and they meant well. Listen to them all, but just adapt it to suit yourself. And what suits one man's training won't suit another. And it's just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Keep it in perspective and enjoy it.
Right, well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for talking to us, Tommy, and good luck with the bell ringing this year. And let's hope the weather's kind to us on August the 27th.
You hope so. Are you there? Are you at the sports?
I will be, yes. Yeah.
Oh, well, give me a shout, give me a nudge.
I will. I'll seek you out. Well, you'll be easy to seek out because you'll be the person with the bell.
My auction mount white coat on at the start, and then I'll probably blend it. But
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. That's been fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. So, having spoken to Tommy about the past days of fell running, I then spoke to some very young fell runners who are the present and future of the sport. These are the McGoldrick children, who have all done very well at Grasmere Sports in the past. Let's listen to what they have to say about fell running. Hello, and welcome to our podcast. Today, we've got three of the McGoldrick children. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves so the listeners know who you all are. So, off you go.
I'm Finlay and I'm age 9.
I'm Mia and I'm age 11.
I'm Callum at age 9.
That's brilliant. Now, you're all here, aren't you, because you're junior fell runners. And you all did pretty well, I think, at Grasmere Sports last year. So we want to talk to you about fell running and how much you enjoy it. So we'll start with you, Mia. How did you get into the sport originally?
Well, my mum and dad
like originally did fell running, and I always wanted to do it. So I started with a race, and then and I started to love it. So yeah.
And Callum, did you do it because Mia was doing it and you thought it looked like fun?
Yeah, kind of.
And did you think that it was something, were you a sporty person anyway, and you thought this was something that you'd like to do?
Yeah.
And what about you, Finley?
I started one year and I didn't really like it, but the next year I really liked it, and then I followed after my sister and my brother.
Yeah. So is it good that you can all go there as a family and do it? Or
Yeah.
are you always sort of racing on the same day when you go to these events?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun then, isn't it? So you can all cheer each other on. And do you? I hope you do. I hope you hope you're there cheering each other on and not standing there booing at each other or something like that. So, can you tell us a little bit about the club that you belong to? Is it Settle Harriers?
Yeah. So we run every Tuesday as like a club, and it's like a local club as well.
Yeah. So do you live in Settle?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you all go along then every Tuesday, and how long are you there usually, and what do you do when you get there?
So we like do an hour, and then we're in different groups, like depending on our ability, and then we do like either track or fell.
Mm-hmm. And which do you prefer to do?
Fell.
Why?
Yeah.
What's so good about fell?
Just enjoy it more.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Has a good terrain. You get a good chance to run up and down the hills.
Do you prefer going up or coming down?
Down.
That's really interesting because I've just been speaking to Tommy Sedgwick, who's the bellman at Grasmere. And Tommy won 3 times in the 1980s, 1970s, sorry. And he was the best descender coming down the fell in his sort of time. So have you heard of Fred Reeves? Fred Reeves holds the record for the seniors, and nobody has beaten that since 1978. But Fred was great at going up, but not very good at coming down. Well, not as good as Tommy at coming down the fell. So Tommy was just fantastic about that. And he was telling me how important it is to kind of be good and enjoy coming down the fell. So it's great that you 3 all enjoy doing that. So let's have a little think about what you've won so far, because I think you've all been very successful. So let's start with Callum this time. Callum, what have you won?
Finishing top 3 in the English Championship races, and also winning Grasmere last year and Ambleside this year.
Wow, that's fantastic, isn't it? So did you feel really proud when you did that? You must have done. Mia, what about you?
Well, I came second at Grasmere last year. I came second in North Yorkshire for the cross country, and then I came third this year just for the FRA, like English Championship.
Wow, that's amazing. So you've got a lot to follow there, Finley. Have you done really well in some races too?
Yeah. I came top 5 the last race I did in Buffer, and then the race before that I think I came top 5 too.
That's really good, isn't it? So you must really feel, well, I can't imagine how proud you feel. So is it difficult, if I were a young person now, is it difficult to get into fell racing?
No, not really.
Not really.
No, you just have to have, I suppose, the determination to be able to get up the fell. That would be the thing that put me off. I mean, I have to say, last year I looked at the races and the kids' races in particular and thought, how on earth do they run up that steep slope? I mean, it's just incredible when you look at it. I mean, it must be tiring. Does it hurt a lot going up that fell?
Well, it doesn't hurt. You just get tired and your legs start like aching because it's harder.
Yeah, I can imagine. Mia, what about you?
Yeah, same reason really, but it depends like how steep it is, because if it's not as steep, it doesn't hurt as much, like in your legs.
So you can find little areas where it's a bit more level, can you, as you're going up? So
Yeah.
it's not quite as hard. Callum, do you find it hard, or is it exciting to go running up that?
Yeah. It's quite like if it's steep, it's just like 10 seconds of pain. That's what I think of it. And then when you get to the top, it's all downhill bit from then.
Yes, yeah. But how do you stop yourself from sort of going too fast when you're coming downhill? That must be difficult. Or don't you care? Is it just so much fun you don't care? Yeah, I think you're all like Tommy. Actually, I think you enjoy coming down so much that it doesn't really matter how fast you're going. So when you're up, well, when you're coming back down, really, can you see the crowds below you, and do you know what's going on, or are you just kind of like focused on the racing and you don't really see any of that?
I'm usually just focused on the racing.
Mia, would you?
Yeah, I sometimes do, like, yeah.
Yeah, because you must see all these people kind of cheering and waiting for you to come to the finish line. That must be so exciting when you get on that flat bit at the bottom, I guess.
Yeah.
You hear everybody kind of shouting and clapping. That must be really, really great fun and make you feel so happy when you hear that, especially if you're winning.
Yeah.
Because you can see the finish line there. So what do your friends think about all this?
They think that I'm like really good at running and stuff like that, but when they do running, they are quite good as well, but they don't think that. They don't.
They haven't got the same confidence, maybe. But I bet they only run on the flat, don't they? They don't go up the hill, do they? No. And what do your friends think, Mia?
They think I'm a bit crazy, to be fair, but yeah, they just think, why would I run up a hill?
Yeah. And what about you, Finley?
Technically the same as Callum. They're like impressed sometimes. And some of my friends do some of the races too, and it's like a competition between us.
Yeah, well, you must have people from the same club who are taking part as well. So, yeah, how much do you want to kind of like beat them? Is that really important when you get back to the club to know who's finished where?
Yeah.
Because when I was speaking to Tommy about his old days racing with Fred, he said that although they were really big rivals and would always compete as much as possible, they were also really, really good friends as well. So do you find that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's nice, isn't it? So are you going to be racing at Grasmere this year?
Yeah.
And which races are you all going to be in? Are you still in the under-9s, Callum?
I don't think so. I think we're in the under-11s.
Oh, right. And which are you in now, Mia?
The under-13s.
13s. And Finley, do you know which you're in?
The same as Callum.
Oh, well, do you just dash off and you don't bother where each other is, or do you have a little check and see where your brother is?
Sometimes I look up and see where he is, but sometimes I just don't and like focus on my own race.
Yeah. And what about you?
Sometimes when I'm coming down, I usually say something to Finley like, "Come on, Finley, you can do it," or something like that.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's lovely. So, what would you say to anybody else who wants to get involved with fell running? Would you recommend it to them?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think you enjoy most about it?
If you like get a trophy or something, it like you achieve something from that kind of.
And anything else to say there? What do you enjoy about it, Mia?
Like when you've finished, it feels really good. Like even if you don't win a trophy, it feels really good that you've like just run up a hill and come back down.
Yeah. Burnt off a lot of energy as well in the same.
Yeah.
And what about you, Callum? What do you enjoy most?
Just the fact that I enjoy it and come back and see if I win a trophy or something.
And do you want to carry on doing this sort of many years ahead? Yeah. Because actually, I did a little tweet last year about the young athletes, and Laura Muir actually retweeted it. So, yeah, so all these athletes are sort of watching what young athletes are doing, I think, and keeping an eye on them. So that's really nice to know, isn't it? So would one day you like to sort of go to World Championships or something like that?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, whether that's because I can see you've got a sweatshirt on there, Mia, that says cross country championships. So yeah, you've got quite a lot going on with different things, I think, haven't you? So yeah, I suppose it depends where your heart lies in the end and which you want to progress with. Yeah. So do you do any other sports apart from athletics?
Yeah, I do football and cricket.
Do you two do any others? Or
I play hockey and I do cricket as well.
oh, that's good. Callum, are you just focused on the racing?
I do football, cricket, and running, the same as Finlay.
Oh, right. So, gosh, you must have a lot of energy, you three. I bet you have all these races and all this sport, and then you go and tuck into a burger, don't you? Because you've burnt off all the reason. Doesn't really matter. Just tell me, how excited are you, and what sort of weather are you hoping for at Grasmere? Because it's not been great this summer, has it?
Sunny.
Sunny weather, yes, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Do you race in the rain just as well? Does it make a big difference? Or
Not really. Sometimes it's harder in the sun though, because
because you're like really hot and you
need a drink.
Yes, because you said that you'd run. I think you won something recently, didn't you, Callum? So was that raining that day? Because it's been raining nearly every day.
on Arncliffe, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, a couple of days ago. It was quite rainy, yeah.
So it didn't really matter to you that it was raining. You still managed to get to that finish line. So finally, last question: when you do get to the finish line, and especially if you break the tape, what does it feel like?
Feel like you've done a really big achievement and like you've just won a race and
Yeah, that's something that
proud of yourself.
nobody can take that away from you because you've done something brilliant. Yeah. And I suppose it makes really lovely memories, does it, Mia, when you look back at what you've done? Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely feel like proud of yourself that you've achieved something.
Finley?
Yeah, you feel proud of yourself, and if you don't win it, it doesn't really matter because at least you tried.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? What a great attitude. Anything else that you'd like to say to any of our listeners?
Just enjoy it and keep going.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny, isn't it? Because I think Tommy was racing in the 1970s. But when I said to him, have you got any advice for young fell runners of today, what they need to do if they ever want to try and beat this record that's been there since 1978? He said the main thing is that they need to enjoy it. So there you are, giving exactly the same advice, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you very, very much. And hopefully this podcast will go live soon and you'll all be able to listen to it and tell all your friends about it. So thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Poodling Around, and the first in our series 2. It's very hard to convey the spectacle that is fell running and how much endeavour and effort goes into it. It would be great at this moment to be able to play Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill, but alas, that's not possible. Instead, why don't you try to get to Grasmere Sports on Sunday, August the 27th, 2023, and appreciate what fell runners young and old achieve. Who knows, you might even be able to witness the breaking of Fred Reeves' 1978 record. Until next time, take care, and remember, life's much more fun when you're exploring new experiences and poodling around.